The following presentation was recorded live in Los Angeles, California for the 24th Annual Convention of the International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is Tape 7, Timing and Training in the CDP Program.
Morning, my name is Calvin Campbell. I am the chairman for the Community Dance Program. The two other panelists are Paul Moore and Bob Osgood. The way we're going to do this, we do not have a remote microphone. They said there would be a remote microphone in each and every room, and as far as I know, there is not one. And so if you have questions, I would ask that you come to either use this one, or if necessary, come on up and use this one. This is a relatively small group. It's interesting because in past years, we've had the biggest session. In the convention for the last 3 years has been the sessions talking about the community dance program. And it's interesting to notice as we change topics and whatnot, this one this year was based more around timing rather than an explanation of the community dance program. And so it's interesting to notice that the change is there, either by the fact that we're off in a corner or the people are split up into too many different interest groups or what. I have a feeling just looking at this group that probably we're going to be preaching to the choir because, I recognize a number of you folks are in the business where you do use proper timing. We're going to split the section into 3 parts of about 20 minutes each, and then we'll have about 30 minutes at the end where people can come and listen and do whatever they want to do. In terms of ask questions about this subject of timing. The reason this session came about, I really need to give credit to a gentleman by the name of Dick Ledger. That we were talking about timing, and Dick sent in a letter to the Board of Governors, and specifically the Executive Committee and his concerns over timing. Dick is probably the premier person in the United States as far as for always calling a well-timed, smooth dance. He specializes in this area. He teaches callers how to do it. And Dick expressed his concern over the fact that timing seems to be becoming secondary in square dancing, and it's an attribute of square dancing that we hate to lose. And they came to the Community Dance Program Committee because timing is a very integral part of what we do. And it is part of the features that we feel is one of the attributes that is very good for square dancing. And so they came to us. The net result is there will also be a second session this afternoon with John Kaltenthaler, and I can't remember the other panelist. But we'll deal with timing and music in classes. And it's in an effort to try and bring back to your attention as people who are out there teaching the effects that timing can have on dancers. My part of this program will be to basically give you some ideas, since we'll probably be sitting here talking to the choir, of some ways that you might want to go back and talk to your fellow square dancers about how timing is affecting square dancing and point out to them the things that they can do. I kind of look at a square dance caller as being a conductor in front of a band or in front of a symphony orchestra, from the aspect that in square dancing, which is different than the other 2 presentations, we expect people to react as soon as they hear the call. And your role as a caller is as a person up there with a baton, and you really regulate the speed of what's happening. And the thing I would like to have you understand is that I feel, on my part, as just one person, that you have a great deal of control over what happens if you choose to exercise that control. Now keep in mind that I learned how to call 40-some years ago. And in that particular era, there was a great deal of emphasis on the fact that if you called square dancing, that you must call in correct timing, that you must use the words at the right place at the right time, so that the dancers had the opportunity to move through the routine without either stopping or starting at any point in time. It was one smooth flow. And the choreography was designed around the fact that you wanted to keep the dancers moving smoothly. We see some of this today and some of it we don't. And, you know, it's a fact of life. Our way of calling has changed. Probably the biggest impact was when we went in the early 60s to sight calling. And we went away from memory style calling to the type of calling that we do today, which is primarily extemporaneous on the floor. It is a different talent that's required to do this, and it requires probably more effort today to be able to exercise good timing in calling than it did 30 years ago, because 30 years ago we were using memorized routines, or we were using module contemporaneous side. But the two can be melded together. Rather than, I don't know what John's going to cover this afternoon, and I don't want to get into his territory. But what I thought would be useful to do, if you're a trainer or a caller, it would be to go over a couple of examples. One is good and one is bad. And to do this, I'd like to have you, if you would, pass this stuff out. And I've got a little chart on here that will perhaps explain some of the basics about what do we mean when we talk about timing. In any square dance record that we use, have you ever heard the term boom chuck sound? You know, boom chuck, boom chuck, boom chuck, boom chuck. That's the background is sitting back there being played with the drums and the bass. And every piece of music that we have that we use within square dancing, or I won't say everyone because there's always exceptions, but is typically broken up into 8-count segments. And if you look at this little chart, in the first column on the left-hand side, you're going to find a bar graph. And the bar graph's been around for years and years and years, and it basically is set out there to indicate the intensity with which each of the beats of these music come through as you listen to the piece of music. Well, for most of us in square dance calling, we listen to 4s. In prompting, we listen to 8s, and this particular bar graph is split up into 8s. And if you look, the first beat of the music is the most intense. The 5th beat of the music is next most intense, and then we have the rest. And if you notice along the bottom, I have it numbered 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, 5 and. All right, we hear the musicians talking about upbeats and downbeats. Okay, what's the guy do with his baton when he's up there in front of the orchestra? He goes one like this, right? And if we were sitting there playing a piece of music, what we would do, we would tap our foot. We would be tapping our foot on the downbeat when it hits the floor, and on the upbeat when our toe comes off the floor. And so if we take a look at this particular bar graph, we have essentially at least 16 places where we can say words. Right? Because we have 8 beats in music, or the downbeats where we can go, and we have also 8 ands. And if we're real articulate, we can sometimes crowd 2 words into those and beats. Okay, let's look a little bit at what happens on something as simple as an Alleman left and a right and left grand. If you take a look at the CALLERLAB recommended timing chart, it basically says from a static square that it's going to take about 6 beats of music to do an Alleman left. And so if we say Alleman left with your left hand, right and left grand, what happens? About the time the people react, we're about 2 beats into the phrase. And so he's got 2 beats, and we see Alleman left with your left hand, that's 4 counts, right? He's got two that he's starting to react, or the person's starting to react. And at just about the time that you say right and left grand, he's about halfway through that element left. Or she's about halfway through that element left. All right, what's the message to the dancer if you suddenly say right and left grand? Hurry, I'm behind. I'm in a bind. Okay, you're giving them instructions, and they're saying, I've got to go. Now, you're going to find out as you talk to Paul and you talk to Bob how we resolve this when we start doing prompted dances. In other words, we train the dancers differently. What I'm talking about is our square dance environment. All right, what is the little ditty that we all go through when we first learn how to call? Element left with your left hand, right to your partner, right and left grand. Okay, why are the words in the middle? It's so that the dancers receive the message to do a right and left grand on counts of 7 and 8 of that little block of music. So that they have 6 counts to be able to do the element left before they receive the message to do the right and left grand. They receive the message on time to do the right and left grand because you're delivering the calls on counts 7 and 8. That's timing. It's like manufacturing just in time, where you get the stuff. You get the information just in time so that you can go ahead and execute the next piece of information or the next piece of choreography. And there's no question but what this takes work and it takes practice. When we were learning how to call 40 and 45 and 50 years ago, it was tied up in little rhyming patterns. And if you listen to the callers that have been around as long as the gentleman up on this stage and some of the old gray beards and the bald heads upstairs, you will find them doing this instinctively because it was pounded into our heads so hard and so long and so completely that we do it automatically. Now, the problem is that the newer callers have not had the benefit of this repetition that we went through. And what I would like to recommend to you from the standpoint of calling, as these other two gentlemen talk, is to listen what they do with the spacing of the words. Because this same sort of thing can be used to call square dances. And it's worth it. Because what you are doing is you are being the person up there with the baton, and you're providing information to these people just in time so that they can dance smoothly without ever stopping or starting. And that's where square dancing, for me, at least as an individual, attains its peak point. Is at the point in time where these people are moving through a routine. Something to think about in this aspect is, if we're out there dancing, is the dance the individual commands? Is it the pieces, or is it the whole? Judy and I and Bob, and do you ever meet Mrs. Shaw?
No.
Okay. Mrs. Shaw was Lloyd Shaw's wife, Pappy Shaw's wife, and Judy and I had the pleasure of being able to be under the tutorship of this lady for 17 years. And when we would go to the fellowships that we had in Colorado at that point in time, we were just young college kids. And very impressionable, and Bob Osgood were there, and all these people. And Mrs. Shaw would produce a syllabus at the end of every one of these week-long sessions that we'd go to. And the syllabus on the front of it had a doodle. And this doodle would be named various things for various years based upon some square dance call. And if you looked at the doodle, you could see the call. If you looked at the doodle, you could see the call. And her view was that you always needed to look at square dancing from above. Looking down on the set from a positioned directly above the set. And if you were calling good choreography, you should be able to draw a doodle of that choreography that was pleasing to the eye. And we went through an exercise one time in which we drew some choreography that was bad, and you could see the jerks. You could see the start and the stop. You could see the motion of what was happening. It was most interesting, absolutely fascinating. Okay, on the second part of the page, or right at the bottom of the page, is essentially, it's good to look at good examples. It's also, I think, probably instructive to look at something that perhaps is not as good an example. I went down to the local record shop, and I decided I would go through and see if I couldn't find some bad examples on singing call records of timing. I'm very sorry to report that this is the first time I've gone down and actually done a count. 80% of the singing call records I found are timed poorly. And I picked out one example that I found on a group of probably 6 to 8 records out of perhaps, 50 that I looked at. And it's a very common thing that we do within square dance calling in singing calls. And that's a little routine. It says element left on the corner, do-si-do with your own, element left once again, and weave the ring. How many of you got records like that? Or something like that? Okay, what do we do when we do this sort of record? We go through and we deliver all the instructions, we stack them up. And then we sing for about 16 beats of music in our good, round, pearly tones, where we say, it's all good, and the people are doing great. But the message that's coming across to the dancer. Element left takes what? 6 counts? Do-si-do is listed in the guide as being 6 counts, but nobody takes into consideration the fact that the dancers must turn around after they do-si-do. How long does it take to turn around? About 2 beats? 2 steps? I mean, you're not going to turn around in 1 step. So we've now got 6 counts for the element left, and we have 8 counts of music, or 8 steps that the people need to take in order to be able to do a proper turnaround after the do-si-do. Then we do another element left, which is an additional 6 counts, and then we say weave the ring. Okay, in the singing calls that I took a look at, it was element left on the corner, do a do-si-do, 4 counts, element left on the corner, 4 more counts, weave the ring. Weave the ring is in the first 2 counts. They've delivered all the instructions in 14 beats of music. What's the message to the dancer? I'm in a box. I've got all kinds of information coming to me that I'm supposed to store and do, and I had better hurry up and get it done. Do you ever wonder why we don't swing? We never give them time. I found calls, and I ran a little exercise. I'm the training officer for the Denver Area Callers Association for the last 2 years, and we went through and we pulled out singing calls out of a very well-known manual for callers. And some of the singing calls are too long, some of them are too short. Some of them are too long by as much as 16 beats of music. Some of them are too short by as much as 16 beats of music. Okay. What?
You saw a Walt Cole study.
No, I didn't see Walt's. We just pulled them out, and we did an analysis. Go ahead.
Walt Cole did this as a study over about a 2 or 3 year period, and he found that only about 30% of the singing call figures came out properly timed. Everything else was off by, as you say, anywhere from 16 short to 16 long. You know, try to cram 80 beats of dance into 64 beats of music.
Yeah. And what has happened over time? We used to have a phenomenon we called stacking. in which we taught dancers how to dance, and we taught them how to time properly, and we expected them to time properly. This then gave us the option, if we wanted to, of stacking calls. And we could successfully, essentially, stack calls like this does. The difference is that 15 years ago, the dancers would take 6 steps to do an CALLERLAB, would take 8 steps to do a do-sa-do, turn around, would take another 6 steps to do an CALLERLAB, and then be ready for the right and left grand and be just chugging along. Today, if you do that, I think you will all agree the dancers will hurry. I mean, is that pretty much your observation of what you're seeing, that the dancers will hurry? Okay, this then says that what we need to do as performers up on the mic, the conductor with the baton, and the baton is now your voice. You have to be the controlling factor. Because the type of thing that we had going 15 years ago where the dancers understood timing is no longer common in base that we can depend on. And so we must change what we do, and we must find ways to be able to put in words so that the people don't hurry, so they have an opportunity to get their information just in time. And it's a learned tactic. Now, what I'm going to do is turn this over to the other 2 gentlemen, because if I had to pick one thing that I would say to you that would be of the most benefit to you in learning how to do this, it would be 2 different areas, and they're actually the same thing. And that's to learn to do either how to prompt, which we do in what they're going to be talking about, or how to cue. Because this then says that you must be able to relate very closely to the music that you're hearing in the background. And you must be able to hear that phrase in your head to the place of where you understand it without ever thinking about it. And if you can do that, then all of a sudden you find it starts migrating into the pattern calls. You start automatically hearing what's going on. And who did I say was going to go next? Was it Bob or Paul? It was Bob. Okay.
Thank you, Cal. I suppose you know that Cal has been the ramrod on this DCP program with his notes that he turns out, and he's edited a book along with Ken and Howell, Ken Kernan and Bob Howell, which is extremely helpful. If you don't have the book, it will answer a lot of the questions that may come out of this meeting. And Paul, of course, will be introduced in a minute, but he's the leader of our Square Dance Association, Colors Association for Contras in the Southern California area. So I have a good couple of companions up here to go back and forth with. I haven't been calling for quite a while. Once in a while I'll do a guest tip, but when we stopped putting out a Square Dance magazine and books and records and things like that, we thought it was just time to retire. And suddenly we discovered that we couldn't retire from dancing because Becky and I enjoyed dancing too darn much. So the one thing that I used to tell callers at a caller school many, many, many years ago was that you've got a decision to make. If you're going to go into calling, you're never going to be able to come back and be a dancer. And Becky and I wanted to disprove that. So we started going to dances, being part of the dance setup, even serving on committees and goodies like that. But primarily we went to contra dances, and because we like to move to the phrase of music. And this is the one place we could find the kind of dancing that started us out 50-some years ago. And I tried to look at this thing as a dancer, and I started realizing that I was mentally being critical of what was happening in the dance floor. so many times, though the caller might be pretty adept at his prompting or whatever it was, that maybe his off the microphone or off the calling deal where he was still on the microphone and talking to the people, he was pretty good in that. But his choice of music sometimes was the thing that bothered us. There's a lot of music that is simply made to defy you to dance to it. It's just simply not music for dancing. And there is good music. And the thing that is interesting to me is that many times a caller in doing contras, which is a prime part of the DCP program, CDP, isn't it? Program, is he would have a favorite hoedown for his square dance calling that absolutely had no possibility of phrasing. It just did not work. And trying to put that together was a problem. It was a problem for me as a dancer. But the other thing, and this would be for maybe a period of 10 years and maybe over 100 callers calling contras, I found lots of times callers would have a good piece of music and a good contra, a good dance, but the two did not go well together. They simply were not married. The caller had picked the two things. He had picked a dance he liked, and he had picked a piece of music he liked, but he didn't try to put them together. So the time you spend in working with a contra, and I don't know how many of you use contras at all. Okay, a few. Before we leave today, I'd like to try to find an answer for you how you can learn to call contras, how you can learn to be on the microphone and do your prompting, because it's important. And right now there's a lot in books and stuff, but there isn't a great deal where you can get out and try it, or you can work with a coach. I'd like to try a couple of records, if I can get up and down rather rapidly. Well, I think I'll spin the records as I
right.
urge.
Yeah,
we get that way.
Why don't you hand him that mic? You know, the thing they warned us about: do not have 10 minutes of silence for the tape. So we have for the people on the tape, we have the recorder or the player over to the side for some obvious reason that's not obvious to me. So go ahead.
These records are tunes that I enjoy dancing to, and I enjoy calling contras to. And the one thing you're going to discover is there's very little similarity. Did I do something?
No, but you were going to.
Don't want to do that. Okay. I think I did something else.
Turn off.
Okay, and a volume. This is great singing call music. It's Lemon Tree, and it's on TNT. This particular sound would go well in a square dance, goes very well with contras and quadrilles. Let me just toss a couple of things. And the main thing you'll find is they're not similar to each other, except that they are well phrased. This is Wizard on the Hill, and Chinook. This to be the sheer joy to dance. We did a video 2 or 3 years ago, Paul and Mike Seastrom and a group of dancers in our area, and these are the records, many of them that we used. This is Melody Records with Manjo, combination of mandolin and banjo, I guess. Again, a different beat. Okay.
What was the record label company again?
This is Melody, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's melody, and it's a two-sided hoedown, same melody, two different keys.
What company?
Melody. This is what we grew up on with contras. This type of music, jigs and reels. You can call the same contra 2 or 3 times in a row, the same dance with different music, and you'll get the feeling you're actually doing a different dance. The music will be the thing that moves it and sells it. This is on the Lloyd Shaw. These are taken from several of the very great Canadian and New England type records. We like Scottish records too, but the phrasing of this is just as good as it was on the pop type tunes. And Lloyd Shaw, and let's see, the name of that you probably know is Granny's Pearls. And let's see. I think I'll hold it at that because I want to do something a little different. In the way of phrasing, we'd like a square. Preferably men and women. 4 couples, if you would get up. We've got room in front here for you. Talk to them for a minute while I get my records.
We're currently setting up a square of people in the front of the room.
That last piece is on Lloyd Shaw. It's called Granny's Pearls as a contra dance. That's the name of the dance that goes with it. Comes from Stan Hamilton Band back in Ontario, Canada. And outstanding set of 5 LPs of Scottish dance music.
As you listen to these particular pieces of music, please listen to the field that's there. Within Square Dance Calling, one of the tools that we have readily available to us is different emotional fields in music. Listen to the difference in these things. There's a lot of ways that you can change the mood and change the timing.
Alrighty, we have a square in front of us. Exhibition dancers from all over the world. Okay, good luck. Side space, hand square. Oh, did the sound not come over? Let's try it again. I think I shocked the heck out of you. Now you have a warning what's going to happen. Side couple space your partner, grand square. Right, left through. Side couples, right, left through. Heads, right, left back. Sides, right, left back. Sides, face your partner, grand square. Reverse it. There is an urge in today's dancing, if you're dancing contemporary dancing, to ignore the 32 beats that you have at liberty to use and take it. I think one record came out with using about 24 beats, and you have to hold yourself back, but the fun that comes in dancing is moving to the music. There's a great feeling of fun in that. Pat, is that Pat Munn? Okay, I thought I was seeing a guy from out of the past. Ignore things like that. It's just so much fun to see so many of you that we don't see you very often. Let's try. I'll tell you in a minute.
That was Wheels, but what label's on?
Wheels is on that is the one that came out on Billy Vaughn's on Dot. Okay. Side couples, out to the right and circle to a line. Well, that was exciting. All right. In your fours like this, we did a quadrille, which we do with prompting. This is a form of mescalanza. It's done in two couples in a line, facing two couples in a line. Figures are done in these two lines, and then do this. Everybody pass through. Now, if you run into a wall and no people, do a partner trade. And you're ready to do it with the next foursome without missing a beat of music. A piece of music that I particularly like.
Life Goes On.
Yeah. If you haven't discovered this for doing contras or quadrilles, it's sure delight. When you circle left, you'll have 16 steps to get back to where you are now without any breaking into lines like you're facing, and that there's nothing else. I don't know if I'm saying this right. You'll circle left 16 steps, and then you'll just face and be ready to do whatever comes next. Do you guys all do a hey for four? Oh, the blank expression. Okay, here we go. Life Goes On. All 8 of you, circle left. That's 16. All a little faster. You're in your lines now. Go forward and back. Go up and back. And a right or left through. Two ladies chain. Take lots of time. Chain back. Forward and back. Pass through and a frontier whirl. You'd be with new fours and you do your circle and start over. Isn't that music easy to move to? And that is on a Blue Star, if you can still get it, and it's Life Goes On That Way. Now,
one of the things that you need to notice in terms of timing on this, notice that Bob is delivering the commands on the last 4 beats of this 8-beat phrase so that you start to dance when the music says go. In other words, as you listen to this, what you're doing is you're starting your movement when the tune starts. And he is delivering the commands on the last 4 beats of the phrase. And so if you look down at the little chart, he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, let's tell somebody to do something. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's tell someone to do something else, okay? You can do this even on the last 2 beats of the phrase. So listen to this as he's doing this.
we'll do the same dance with a different piece of music, and you'll feel a little differently in doing it. Certainly, all the way around. Lines forward and back, up, and a right or left through. And the ladies chain. Chain back. Take lots of time in your courtesy turn. Do a right or left through. Forward and back. Thank you. That record, the Grand Island in the Sun, works well with almost anything you want to do in contras, in any of the contra family, which would be your quadrille or your mescalanza. Now, if you'll bend your lines, you've got lines there, and everybody pass through and do a U-turn back. Now, in this formation, we've got a familiar contra. Do you all do contras? Okay. Let's see if I can pull you through without teaching this. What do we got left here? Let me try that one. I'm figuring you don't know anything about contras. Let's just see if we can get this. Forward and back. Men face left and the girl's face right. Swinger, she's your corner. Now with that couple across, make a line of 4 with your backs to me. In lines of 4. Okay, somebody describe this on the tape. Be sure the girl's on your right. Now you'd walk 4 steps. Then you'd wheel turn as a couple to face me. Come back. Bend the line. Or right or left through. And a right or left back. With the left hand, make a left hand star. Back on the right and a right hand star. Lines, forward and back. Now, in this one, there are going to be people at the end who have nothing to do. Face your corner. Men face left, ladies right. And swinger. Make a line of 4 with your back to me. Go down in 4. Wheel turn. Come back. Bend the line. And the ladies chain. Chain back. And cross at the ends. In your lines, forward and back, up. And back. Corner, do-sa-do. Oh, it's a good time to stop. We're not videoing this. I'll tell you what happens. When you start on this and calling, it's awfully hard just to stop. Okay, that's the end of this part of it. Let me just say a couple words on the microphone up above.
Thank you.
Thank these people. Let's have them sit down, okay?
A number of years ago, when I first attended a caller school, and we didn't have caller schools in the area, we heard there was one, and all the dancing we did in our area, this was in right after the war in 1946, were one-night stands. But we always came back to the same thing. The people enjoyed, had a ball, but we could never really get anywhere. And by getting anywhere, I don't mean more material, I mean dancing better. And so we applied for this school and felt very lucky, and we got into it. It was back in Colorado Springs, and it was a Cheyenne Mountain School. And Dr. Lloyd Shaw, who had the Cheyenne Mountain Dancers and traveled with them around the country, was the one who had visioned this. He had written a book in 1938. He had the Cheyenne Mountain Dancers, and he had this school for leaders. Everybody and their uncle seemed to apply, and he tried to select 50 callers from different parts of the country. And that first group that I went to in 47 had Herb Gregerson and had Ricky Holden, and had a lot of leaders of the day. And these were the actual leaders in all the communities they came from. And do you know what we did for a week? We learned to dance. That's all he taught. We did other things. We got some material because different things were being danced in different areas. But we danced to music, and we learned how to teach by watching a teacher. We came home and started our first classes, and from that point on, we saw that we could develop smooth dancing. Now, CALLERLAB has caller school curriculum. There is no curriculum at the minute that I know of for the community dance program. If we someday can have such a thing, I hope the first thing that we can teach to the teachers that want to learn is how to dance. Because once you know how to dance, you're going to be a better teacher and a better prompter or caller. And I think this is one thing that we notice in dancing today. We're having one heck of a lot of fun. A lot of people are enjoying what is being done. But when you watch the dancing, if you try to break it down, it is not necessarily dancing, as I would term, movement to music. And you can usually tell by the faces. Cal, I've gone over time, but I've had a ball. Thank you very much.
All right. Next, we'll turn it over to Paul Miller.
You want to move over? No, this is fine. Well, Bob touched a bit on prompting for contradancing, and Cal certainly did how to call squares, and we find that there is a very different set of skills used for the two activities, for calling squares, for calling contradances, or calling quadrilles either. Usually, and just as Cal was pointing out with his time sequence there, that most of the time square dance callers take the first beat for themselves. They go ahead and usurp that with a handful of exceptions. The major exceptions are at the beginning of a singing call, we know to find the end of the introduction, and we'll say circle left. Joys that we are singing to them. And I'm oversimplifying a whole bunch there, but we can find that. The other place that we often find the correct phrase for the music is when we do a grand square. And at least we will prompt the dancers so they're starting on the first beat of the grand square. They may come out at a different time than we intend them to, because I think most dancers will go ahead and cut the corners on a grand square. That's why they will have time to swing in the middle. Okay. Stand around and play patty cake at the end of it, or whatever bad habits they learn in your neighborhood. It was a delight this morning to see people actually do a full 32 count grand square. It is a rare event indeed. But we do like to take that first beat for ourselves, and the effect on the dancer is that they are automatically at least 2 beats behind the phrase. And if they have listened to the music, if they've been, if they come to us with any sense of music and rhythm and so forth, they want to get back on the phrase. And what do? Automatically they begin to rush to try to catch up with us, so that they get to move on the first beat when we're saying it. And you're going to find them cutting all kinds of corners to do the same thing. But as Cal says, we can be the conductor up here with our voice, and we can force people by being strong, emphasizing the phrase and the beat of the music, to get the people to settle in and dance with us and not rush quite as much. We're never going to break them of the grand square bad habits. We will probably never break them of all of the bumps and grinds and a weave the ring. But what the heck? I went through Cal's book, the Dancing for Busy People, and pulled out a CDP square dance figure. So if you can just imagine this one, because I don't think we want to get folks up for this. But the pattern is go forward and back. Same two, make a right-hand star, turn around, come back with a left-hand star. And so far we've accomplished absolutely nothing. We're right back where they started, correct? Okay. Pick up your corner, arm around, and star promenade. Okay? Back out, circle left. It's boy, boy, girl, girl. Swing the nearest girl and promenade. It's kind of fun little gimmicky thing to do. And it times out very nicely. However, usually when we sing that, we will sing the forward and back starting on beat 1. And so the dancers are inclined to rush a little bit. So instead of taking 4 counts forward, 4 counts back on a forward and back, they're inclined to go in and out as quickly as they possibly can, so they get back onto phrase with us. Do we have a question back there?
I usually say on something like that, swing the nearest sexy thing, and I get a big kick out of that.
Yes, yes. Or swing the prettiest girl in the hall, or but I always save that one for the last figure. The comment was that there are other things you can use besides swing the nearest lady, that ways to get a good reaction from the crowd, and that's a showmanship element to it.
We do have a wireless mic now, so if you have a question, if you'll just stand up and wait for me to get to you with the mic so we can record it.
Right, and then George White will be happy with us because we don't have dead time on our tape. So anyway, that's one way that we teach our dancers to rush, is by not letting them have the first beat. When we prompt, we return that first beat to the dancers, and we give them an idea of what to do. The music tells them when to do it, and that's a big difference. How many people do any round dance cueing? Line dances? You've got to do exactly the same thing. You have to give them the prompt ahead of it so that the dancers go on the music. I couldn't imagine doing a line dance or a round dance if the cue came right on the time that you're supposed to be doing it. And I know that if you dance to a cuer who is just even a fraction late on the cues, you feel uncomfortable all the way through the dance. You want that exactly the right timing on it. We do the same thing when we're doing contras and quadrilles, and mixers, a whole variety of things. Now, the other thing, besides getting people so they don't rush when we prompt, the other thing is that it opens up some interesting variations in choreography that we can do. If dancers move at the same tempo all the way along, if you make a left-hand star, say, the heads go into the middle, make a left-hand star, and they move at the regular tempo, they're going to get about 3/4 of the way around in 8 counts. They're just not going to make it, particularly if you don't tell them to start making that star until the first beat. That they're even going to be further behind. But by prompting it and also telling them how far they need to get with the star, now we could have, here's a figure. Heads go forward and back. Okay? Make a right-hand star all the way around. If you prompt it ahead of time, the people will move right into that star out of a forward and back, and they'll make it all the way around comfortably. Okay? But you have to warn them, and that's part of the prompting thing too, is let them know what they have to do, how far they have to get in, and how much time. And dancers will help you out an awful lot. Okay? So, you've made the right-hand star all the way around. Gentlemen step out. Ladies chain across. 8 counts. Chain the ladies back. Same 4, make a left-hand star, and it flows very nicely. Swing your corner. Promenade. You can get 8 counts for a swing, 16 counts for a promenade. Times out beautifully. Not possible if you sing the figure, but if you prompt it ahead of time, the thing works like a charm. And so there's that skill of prompting. I'm going to apologize. I'm not sure if I need to apologize, but I was going to do you a quick demonstration on a simple little mixer thing called Phrase Craze. However, my record took legs up at the CDP session yesterday, and I lost about 8 records to somebody's briefcase, and I'm assuming it was unintentional. At least I still am assuming it was unintentional. But it's a fun little thing, and it takes now, instead of just the prompting skills, now we start looking at what does the music itself do to help support the dance. And in this particular piece of music, the melody is, 32 counts? Yeah, it's only a 32-count piece of music. And you get the melody for the first 8 beats, and then the next 4, and then the band stops playing for 4 counts. And there's nothing going on. And then it picks up and plays out the melody for the last 16 counts. So you get the total 32. Well, what do you get people to do for 4 counts of music? So, picture the dance. You have lines of 3, like spokes of a wheel. They're in a big circle, but they're spokes of a wheel facing line of dance. Everybody can picture that. Nod your heads, yes, no. Okay? Walk 8 steps. The ends turn and face the center. Back up 4 steps. What's happening to the music now? The band stops. And you've got these people standing out in space. So, in 2 beats, clap your hands 3 times. In 2 beats, stamp your feet 3 times. And the people now are paying attention to the music, and you will know very quickly if the people are on beat with you, because you will hear claps and stomps at funny times during the course of this thing. But most people will pick up very, very quickly, that here is the music. And then they get back into it. They move back into a right-hand star and a left-hand star, break out into their lines of 3, and start walking again. And it's a simple little dance, but it reinforces that idea of dancing with the phrase, and as callers, we teach them the dance, and then we prompt just a little bit ahead to remind them that, this is what you're doing now, then you do this, then you do this. I also find that it's really kind of nice on a dance like that. Get out of the way. Prompt it for a few times. How many times do people have to hear the cues to something like that? Then get out of the way. The people will dance the record for the rest of the time, and you'll never have to say a thing. And they're dancing. And you've made the major partnership that I see that we've sort of forgotten about. The partnership is between the dancer, the dance, and the music. The caller's job is to remind them what it was. Unfortunately, that also eliminates a little bit of the showmanship angle. And, we still have our hams enough that we like to show off. But there are plenty of times we can do it without getting in the way of the dance and letting people enjoy what they're doing. Any questions so far before I turn the page? I get to turn the page then. By the way, I do have handouts for everybody to take if you'd like a copy of this thing. Anybody ever come across a circle mixer called Kiwi Ring? You familiar with Kiwi Ring? Yeah, a couple of people are. It's a little unusual for us because it is an 80 count or a 40 bar piece of music that you need for this. It's a little bit longer than the usual piece of music. But again, it does those interesting things that Phrase Craze does, is that it asks people to clap and stomp in time with the music, and they really end up listening to it. That was another record that walked on me, and I think, is it Mary's Contra? Is there a tune?
It's Kiwi Ring.
Yeah. It's a Stan Hamilton tune. Judy, do you know, is it Mary's Wedding? Is that the tune? Name of the tune?
I don't know the record itself. It says Kiwi Ring on it.
Yeah. Go ahead and I'll look it up.
He's going to look it up. Does you have that with you?
No. But
he's got the book. Hey, he's going to look it up. Anyway, it's a dance where in a big circle you have your partner. And by the way, I do this with one-night stands. I'll do it with unbalanced gender groups. And so if you have, too many ladies, or I have actually, believe it or not, a group with too many boys, I have found that they will dance together as long as you don't call them boys and girls. Okay? The right-hand dancer are A's, and the left-hand dancer are Bs, and it works like a champ.
The record is a Lloyd Shaw recording. You will need to pick out this recording because it's a special 80-count jig. And the name I have it underneath is called Kiwi Ring, K-I-W-I Ring. But you'll need to be sure you've got that piece of music because it is, the normal 64, and this is an 80 count, or an 80 beat, or an 80 step jig. All right. There's an interesting story that goes with this, by the way. Okay, do I have time to tell it while you look it up? There we go. That's not it? Okay.
It's on here somewhere, but I
don't. You want me to look it up?
You won't find it in there.
All right.
Anyway, 80 counts, join hands, circle left for 8 counts. And it's really fun if you do a step slide or a skip slide type of a step instead of just walking, because it is a jig, and people will, and certainly younger people will pick up that they really want to make this thing bounce and have a good time with it. Anyway, circle left 8 counts, circle right 8 counts. Then the ladies are going to do a figure 8, 16 counts. They start by going around in front of their partner and behind and back to place, and then out in front of the corner and around and back to place for 16 counts. By the way, the figure is in the handout, so you don't have to write it down. Okay, I do those things for you. Okay? Then the gentlemen go, and they go out to the right, around in front of partner, and back and around, and in front of corner and back, and everybody ends up facing partners. Gentlemen facing line of dance, or counterclockwise. Ladies are facing clockwise, and we get into a little bit more involved weave the ring motion, but it's everybody clap your hands twice, stomp your feet twice, and that takes 4 beats of music. So they're clapping and stamping on the beat, and then move forward passing right shoulders for 4 beats. Then clap and stamp, pass left shoulders for 4 beats, go on to the next. Clap, stamp, on to the next. Clap, stamp, on to the next. End of the dance, face in, and you're ready to start again. And again, very quickly, you'll find out if people are really dancing with the music or not, because you will hear claps coming at funniest times during the music, because they will go forward 2 steps because they're used to going forward and back in 2 steps, or whatever the excuse is. You look like you're ready for a comment, Cal.
Nope.
He's just nodding his head. Yes, I've seen that. So, that is getting people dancing with the music. That's prompting to the music, making the figures fit to the music. But all we really have worried about is the beat and the length of the phrase, the length of the melody. There's another game that we can play with timing within the music also, and that's playing with what the melody is like. And you can be very carefully picking out tunes that help to support the feeling of the dance. I think this was something that Bob said earlier. Oftentimes we take a dance we like, and we take a piece of music we like, and we... Is Johnny Preston going to pour another one? Anybody see the after party last night? You can turn it off, Cal. There's a switch on there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they make a good combination, so that we need to really pay some close attention to what is the feeling of the music that we're using. One of the records I lost, but then somebody went off and got me a copy of it, is this hi-hat rhythm examples. Anybody come across this marvelous piece of music? It's a recording of the same tune, which is I Want a Girl Just Like the Girl. Right? And they're going to play it a number of times, but in different rhythms. And you'll find out what a different feeling each of those rhythms is. So I'm going to go pick up the other microphone.
You can make it squeal.
I'm not going to stick it in front of the microphone.
Yeah.
The speaker. Okay, band 1 is 2/4. This is our standard square dancey boom chuk type of a thing. That Cal was talking about earlier, and you feel it, you know. Downbeat, foot goes down, upbeat, you come up, and it gives you a nice lift to it. Take the same melody, and if I can find this tiny little groove in here, this is going to be 4/4, which is going to be all downbeats, and it's going to be march time. I feel funny talking about music. We've got a superb musician in the group. Sitting here about the second row is Dennis Riley, who's a superb band leader for. Of 4/4, if I can hit it. There we go. Oh, I'm getting good. They call this the shuffle walking bass. Same melody, but what a difference in feeling by changing just a little bit of the rhythm. Now let's see, where do we go? We're going to go to 4/4 with a Latin flavor. Just a quick flavor on those things. I wanted to hit one more idea before I get off of this. Disc number 6, number 10. I have a mini disc player back here, which is a marvelous invention. It saves me carrying about 60 pounds of records around. There's a neat circle contra dance, which is couple or a circle on the inside with your partner beside you facing another circle on the outside, and so you have couple facing couple, and it's very, very easy. Ladies chain over, chain back, same four, make a left hand star, come back with a right hand star, and that puts you in your own line. And you can single file promenade. The outside circle is going clockwise, the inside circle is going counterclockwise. And they single file promenade for 8 beats, and then they turn around and come back for 8 beats. And the idea on this is to take advantage of a melody. And this is a dancer that Bob Howell put together, and he chose the music Marching to Pretoria. And so I'm just going to prompt this to you, imagine, and then see what happens to the melody and to the dance all at the same time. Two ladies chain. Chain back. Make a left-hand stop. Come back with a right-hand stop. Single file promenade. There's the melody line. There's the chorus that everybody recognizes. Everybody sings while all they're doing is marching down and back. What a marvelous piece of taking the music and emphasizing the dance. Ladies chain. Chain back. Star left. Star right. Men lead a single file promenade. And everybody will sing along and have a great time. And what a lift to have put the dance and the music together right at the same spot. And that just about covers it.
Now to a short 7 minutes, as according to the watch I've got in front of me, for questions and comments. Once again, Judy will have the portable mic. If you wish to say something or ask a question, please address it to the panel or make your comment into the portable mic. Anybody? Okay. Judy? By the way, Judy's my lovely wife of many years.
Yes, I was wondering by chance, how often do you use the speed of the record to control the dance floor as far as the beat, because we can change the speed of our records. So oftentimes if people are going a little bit too fast the beat, I'll slow the music down a little bit and they'll follow the beat a little bit better. How often do you do that?
Yeah, would you do us the honor of also giving us your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark Moss, Tempe, Arizona, Central Arizona College Association.
Thank you. I use tempo of the music a great deal. I use tempo of the music with different groups of people different ways. From the standpoint of trying to set the mood of the music, oftentimes this is dictated by age, by infirmity, by youth, by exuberance, by temperature, by slickness of the floor. Do a lot to change the tempo in order to be able to change the feel of the dance. Anybody else?
I have a one caution. Don't figure that by picking up your tempo that you're going to advance the ability of the dancers. Great fun comes when there's enough music there for them to dance to every beat and they don't have to cut any corners. So don't feel that you have to do a fast dance to do a good dance.
Next. There was somebody else had their hand up here. Okay, Judy, I think he was first, and then Dennis was. Yeah, he was.
Okay, I've noticed, my name is Paul Hagen, I'm from Fontana, California. And I've noticed when using traditional style square dance music that was used 20, 30 years ago and trying to put it with modern choreography, is it my misinterpretation of the beats and timing that it doesn't work with the square dance choreography we have? Or can it be used? Can we use traditional type contra music to produce a square dance?
Do you want to go?
I think I get that one. Yes, I do use some of the old-time music quite a bit. I like to use modern instrumentation of it, particularly. But there is a problem with contemporary square dance choreography, is that we have a number of figures that don't time. Load the Boat, I think, is probably the best example. That it's one set of timing for the inside, it's another set of timing for the outside, and I think we use that an awful lot for choreographic convenience. As callers, we know that it's a very simple move, but it gives us about 10 beats to think about what we're going to do next while everybody else is running around in little circles out there. But it does not time out. But you can learn to adjust. There are places where you can do something that will get you back onto the phrase, and people will go right back with you.
And when you're calling that kind of choreography, don't choose traditional style music or music with strong phrasing. It doesn't say that you should not be conscious of the number of beats it's going to take to go through a figure like Load the Boat. And, what you need to do is be having the metronome in your mind counting so that you don't crowd them or you don't leave them sleep. See the difference? It's your job. To me, you're the guy up there with the baton. You're in control, and you should be in control. And it's your obligation, I think, I feel it's my obligation, let's put it that way, to be able to see that the floor flows smoothly. And timing is the key to the smooth flow as much as hands or body motion is part of that formula that makes a dance move nice and smoothly. Next.
Thanks. Dennis Riley from Oak Glen. And I was intrigued by your comments on the rhyming phrases and the old chestnuts, as I call them. I'm indebted to Sets in Order for some of the first calls that I learned, those old patter calls. And are you saying that they actually almost become a cue in the sense that if you employ that rhyming phrase, it gives them time to get ready? Is that a point?
It almost becomes a cue, and for prompting, for contras or for trios or all the prompted dances, it's very much of a cue. You're allowing the dancers to take the musical one note, the first of the phrase, to dance on. When you're doing this in square dance calling, you can do it, but you have to really know your music, and I would highly commend to you that you do this, that you know your music well enough so that you know where you are instinctively within the phrase at all times. Then you can make use of the first four or the last four, the first two beats, beats 3 and 4 or beats 6 and 7 and 8, so that the dancers can start on beat 1. Dick Ledger is an absolute master at this. He does it all the time. He will deliver his commands so that you start dancing on the first beat of the phrase, and he's a very excellent square dance caller. And it's a matter that Dick has mastered this. The other one that did a real nice job and did good workshops on it was the recent was Walt Cole, who's died recently, and he did workshops on this thing. The thing is that I hope you realize that this is a tool that perhaps you can get your hands onto and perfect, that the other people, if they don't perfect it, is going to put you in a position, frankly, of an advantage. That if you have this ability, and keep in mind, we dance to music. If we dance, we sometimes walk through a whole night of square dance calls. See the difference? There's a difference between square walking and square dancing. And you're in charge of what that difference. You make the difference. Believe me, you do.
Yes, Will Templeton, Tiki Island, Texas. I have a question about when you give 2 calls at one time, how you plan ahead for that. If you're going to have the boys circulate and the girls trade, or maybe ends load the boat and the centers star through, pass through, or something like that. It takes a long time to do that, and just wondering how you time that.
The place that I can think of most often that we use that, like the girls circulate, boys trade type thing would be, we've just done a swing through, and so I will give that girls circulate while the boys are finishing their part of the swing through, and then as they're finishing it, I also give them their boys trade, and so they've got the shorter way to go while the ladies are making the longer route. And so, that's a case where I'm definitely have to overlap, but make sure that you give it in that sequence, because if you gave the boys trade, girls circulate, you're going to, again, be behind. Somebody's going to end up standing and looking around at the ceiling, and you get that stop-and-go feeling.
We are at the end of our time period. I want to thank all of you for coming. I would like to thank the people on the panel. Paul Moore, let's give him a big hand. Bob Osgood, let's give him a big hand. How many of you take the CDP journal? How many of you don't? If you want to know what it is, come on up and get a copy.
And how about a nice hand for Cal Campbell?